Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about episode 7 of 4 Minutes. We're going to be doing our usual deep dive analysis, recap, situation all in one with my thoughts at the end. And guys, this episode was a doozy. This episode, honestly, I feel like I don't even know where to start. It was so just crazy. I guess it wasn't any crazier than episode 6, but I think because I was expecting it to be such a different episode than it actually ended up being, that I was just really thrown off the entire time, which I think my notes kind of reflect. I took about twice as many notes on this episode as I usually take. It ended up being over 40 pages of notes when I usually take around 24 pages of notes. So that'll be fun. I really do think I'll be able to keep this video around the same length as my other ones though. So just bear with me. I know you wouldn't be here if you didn't love a good analysis. So thank you all for being here and for sticking around with me while I make these crazy videos. As the show is winding down, I've been thinking if there's another show I want to do this kind of thing with. Maybe not a currently airing one because it's a lot of pressure and a lot of work, and I travel a lot and I do things. So I hate putting it out late because then they don't get as much engagement. But, the pressure, especially for a show that comes out on a Friday, it's so much pressure. It's basically my entire weekend to do these videos. I'm thinking about maybe going back and doing an old show. I've been really tempted to do something like this for I Told Sunset About You. Maybe not in this exact format, but something similar. Let me know your thoughts on that. If you want me to continue this series, if you want me to do a different show, just whatever your thoughts are on the subject, considering next week is the 4 Minutes finale. But let's just jump right in and get started. It is very late at night and I need to go to bed soon. But I thought my makeup looked way too cute to not film, so that's one of the reasons I'm still awake. The episode opens on a small house sitting over a stagnant, dirty river. This could be a reference to the man we see sitting on the floor inside one of the houses drinking alcohol. Is he also stagnant? Stuck with no way out of the life he's made for himself? We don't know this man, but soon we see a black cat with a red collar, and I immediately knew this must be Tongkla's father. Trigger warning for violence against animals and children for this sequence. The cat meows, and the man is immediately enraged and begins kicking the cat. Tongkla appears and tries to stop him, but it doesn't work. Dome is right behind him, pulling Tongkla off their dad. Their dad finishes his nefarious work with the cat, then turns to Tongkla and starts wailing on him next. Dome manages to throw their dad off of Tongkla and drags his brother away. Tongkla is totally wrapped up in his emotions, unable to really do anything but feel right in the moment. Dome is the one who takes charge and gets the both of them away from their father. From what we know about Tongkla and Dome's relationship so far, coupled with this scene, they seem to have a very reciprocal protectiveness of each other. The boys go sit by the water. Dome is complaining that they've reported their dad so many times, but the police won't do anything since it's just a domestic matter. It's also implied by their conversation that their dad has only ever hit Tongkla and not Dome. Is it because Tongkla protects Dome, or would Dome potentially retaliate in a way that Tongkla doesn't? Dome suggests they go file another police report, but then also add animal cruelty charges. Tongkla just slowly shakes his head, staring at the water. Filing a report won't do anything, he says. There's a darker intention behind his words. The music swells, and the scene changes to a view of a hallway in his home. And his father is thrown to the ground by an unseen force behind the wall. So we're looking down a hallway, and there's the two walls, and we see the dad kind of fall into frame, if that makes sense. I hope the screenshot will illuminate what I'm talking about. It's nighttime. The one fall must have done him in, as blood slowly pools underneath his head. Footsteps slowly make their way downstairs, accompanied by a bell, similar to the jingling bell of the cat's red collar. Did the dad fall down the stairs. Dome emerges from behind a curtain, shouting for their father, asking Toneclaw what happened. It was Toneclaw on the stairs. For a moment, he's shrouded in darkness, almost looking like he has a black eye. But he steps more into the light, revealing a fully healed face. It's been some time since that first scene that we saw. Dad got drunk and fell down the stairs, Toneclaw tells Dome. Dome stares at Toneclaw for a moment, searching, like he's not quite sure he believes him. But then he looks away. Ambulance, Dome says. We have to call an ambulance. And then Dome scampers off. Toneclaw stares down at the body of his father, his eyes sparkling with realized revenge. He looks powerful, realizing what he can do with his own two hands. He got rid of his father, his tormentor, so easily. No one else would even suspect him. What else can he do? We see in his hand he's carrying the red cat collar. Is the black cat Toneclaw sees now, after the untimely demise of his pet, the personification of himself? Is it the dark, twisted thing inside him that revels in the power he has over human life? That he's realized how easy it is to push someone over the line between life and death? How it's really just a small, simple thing to rid the world of someone that nobody would miss anyway? Is this his personal black cat, like the Edgar Allan Poe story? Even when it's dead, it's not gone. It lives inside him like a coiled snake waiting to strike. If I continue with the theory that these moments before the title sequence are the original timeline, is that why we saw the cat in our timeline? Is the cat still dead? Did all this still happen in our timeline? Or did things only diverge once Great starts going back 4 minutes, meaning all of this has happened in our timeline as well? But if so, what are the implications for all the other scenes we've seen at the beginning of the episodes? That Toneclaw is a serial killer, that he killed the bodies found in the swamp by the lighthouse? If so, to what purpose if Dome isn't dead? Let's continue. Maybe we'll find out. Having watched the entire episode before filming this, I can say we sort of find out, maybe. We get the opening theme, then cut to two men setting up crab traps. That's what it looked like they were doing to me, but I'm not an expert, so I don't know. They're in a very muddy area right by a tributary of the Chao Phraya River, which cuts through Bangkok. The son finds something suspicious in the mud, a SIM card. Cut to a police officer putting the strange SIM card directly into his police issue computer. No safety measures, no secondary laptop that's controlled by the IT department, just bad IT safety all around, putting an unknown SIM card directly into your police computer. That could not go wrong at all. He opens a file, and the file contains the dash cam video that we saw in the previous episode after Tidal and Great throw Dome's body in the river, and they're yelling at each other about what just happened. That's the video that's on the SIM card, which is absolutely crazy to me that Tidal would just take the SIM card and throw it in the river, I assume is what he did, instead of break it or burn it. Why on earth would you just toss it in the river and assume everything's going to be fine? I mean, yes, it is a big river, but there's so many things you can do that are just as easy as that are guaranteed to get you the results you want, which is the destruction of the footage. But it had to happen for the plot, so here we go. That is a refrain you will hear several times in this episode. It had to happen because of the plot. And I will say that's the nice for me. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of things that only happen for the sake of the fact that they have to happen for the plot to move forward. And this show has not really done much of that so far. But they did it several times in this episode. And I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan. But I was also really confused by this episode because I was thinking, are we still watching the original timeline, the events of what happened? I thought we were going to be coming back to our timeline, but I think because of this scene, because we have the dash cam footage that doesn't happen in our timeline. It only happens in the OG timeline. So we must still be in the OG timeline if these things are happening. And this little brief moment I just had to explain all of that is the like boiled down version of about an hour of confusion where I was trying to break down the first 10 minutes of this episode. So you're welcome to not have to go through that with me. The police chief just like rips the SIM card out of his computer. Again, not making sure to do the like, do you want to exit this disk from your computer? And you say yes. And then it's no, he just rips it out, which again, I'm like, dude, even more bad IT practices. But he rips it out of the computer after he sees the video and he breaks the SIM card in half and he throws it in the trash. So we know who Great's parents are, but whoever's Title's parents are, they must be some bigwigs because this police dude is freaking out. Whoever they are not people that this police officer wants to mess with. So apparently, the father and son that were doing the crab traps watched the SIM card or the video on the SIM card before they gave it to the police, which I guess makes sense because how else would they know to give a mysterious SIM card to the police if they didn't know there was some evidence of a crime on it? Like, I guess they would just throw it away or keep it or sell it to somebody else otherwise, but they watched it. The police officer tells them not to tell anybody about the SIM card. Don't tell anybody that you found it. And the son is like, well, what about the video? Because they clearly watched it. And the police officer is like, don't talk about the video. Don't talk about the SIM card. As far as you should be concerned, you didn't see a thing. And if I ever find out that you told anybody, I'm going to consider you as interfering with police work and I suppose arrest them. The son is clearly upset by this. They heard two men confessing to a crime on camera, murder no less, not just like, oh yeah, we robbed the convenience store, which I mean, I'm not saying that's a good thing to do, but like it's a big deal crime. It's not like a, oh, okay, like we're all just trying to make it in this world. It's like bad. So the son is upset and he's like, we just heard this confession. We're just going to do nothing. But the dad, he understands the game. So he's like, yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. We saw nothing. We will tell nobody. I don't see what. I don't even know why I'm here right now. And then he bundles his son away out the door. But before they leave, the son looks over his shoulder and he takes a long, hard look at that police office. He is not happy. The scene changes to Win getting some snacks by the river. He sees the cop that we just saw in the office with the SIM card. They start chatting. Win says he wants to know about the DNA on the rocks. So he was kicked off the case, even though I'm pretty sure he was only kicked off the case in our timeline. In the OG timeline, I think he was still working the case because it was Toneclaw's blood on the rocks. You see where my confusion comes from? But no, he was kicked off the case actually because they found Title's DNA on the rocks. The cop is like, oh, I don't know if I should tell you, you got kicked off the case. But Wynn's like, please. And the cop is like, okay, fine. It was Title's blood on the rocks. And you know who Title is? The son of the police chief. That's clearly why Title thinks that he can get away with everything. And he has been able to get away with everything so far because he is the son of the police chief. So we got some corruption, we got some connections going on. I am so confused about this though, because in the timeline we saw with the phone, it was Toneclaw's DNA on the rocks, not Title's. So I'm just confused. This part in particular confuses me. I wrote down, so this must be our timeline because in the original timeline, he knew it was Toneclaw's DNA on the rock because he hadn't gotten the investigation taken away from him. But then how does this recording exist? Because Great clearly didn't stop Title from what he did to Dome, but somehow it's not Toneclaw's DNA on the rocks, it's Title's. I'm so confused. And I swear, I wrote this at this point. I had to pause and I said to myself, if all of this is a coma dream, I'm going to be really upset. I'm not going to lie. I don't really like it when shows do that. Not to say that they can't do it well, and maybe the finale will come around and really like bring everything together for me. But for over half the show, we've gotten this timeline that I'm beginning to think wasn't ever even real. So it's just kind of frustrating. Speaking of all of this, one of my mutuals posted a TikTok the other day because someone asked them to explain 4 minutes up until this point. And like, honestly, bless that girl because I could not imagine trying to condense all of this into a TikTok, even a 10-minute TikTok. You know me, I'm out here filming. I film for over an hour and I managed to edit the videos down to like 45 to 50 minutes. Um, so it is not easy trying to explain what's going on in one episode, let alone every episode up until now, unless I went super macro level. So more power to you, girl, for trying to do that. So anyway, the cop tells Wen that it's Title's DNA on the rock. Title's the chief's son. Then the cop tells Wen to look into the surrounding evidence, but be careful. Wen says, "Don't worry about me." They exchange some pleasantries and then Wen leaves. Also, listen, I know I've been begging for my baby Tongclaw back, but this is not the time to be unfocused on the great time storyline. Did my man survive getting shot in the chest? Did time get to him in time? What timeline are we in? What rules are we following? I'm very confused, and I also really don't want Gray to be dead. Wayne goes to the university security office and looks for the footage of the night that like all this stuff with Dome went down. And then I also forgot about the fact that somebody at the university left a threatening note on his car. I guess it must have been Title, right? Like, who else could it have been? I'm less than 10 minutes into the episode at this point, by the way, and I'm already at 8 pages of notes, if that tells you where my mind was at when I was trying to watch this episode. Wynn sees something on the security feed that catches his attention. He like throws the security guard's hands off the mouse and he leans in asking, "Did you show me an edited clip?" "Not edited, sir," the university security guy says, but in my and Wynn's opinion, he doesn't sound very convincing. Wynn rewinds one of the clips and we see that a trash can just like randomly like moves, like between one instant and the next. It's like here and then it's like here, seemingly like on its own by magic. "Then what's that?" Wynn asks the security guard. "A ghost?" Mr. Security looks uncomfortable. Wynn threatens to arrest him, and the security guard immediately folds and shows him the real clip. It's on a thumb drive in a desk drawer. If I was trying to hide something like this, I'd definitely just delete the footage. Why keep it? Blackmail? Seems more dangerous of a game than this security guy would ever want to play. But it needs to exist for the plot. So here we are. This is incident number 2 of something happening just for the plot. And it's kind of annoying because literally, why on earth would you keep this footage? The clip shows Title and Dome fighting, or Title beating the crap out of Dome and strangling him until he passes out. Title sees the security camera, wanders over, and grins. It's a sharp, rotten, evil thing full of blood and teeth. The smile of a man who knows he'll get away with everything, with anything, because his father will protect him. He's daring the viewer to try something. He's not scared or remorseful. Truly, this solidifies Title as like a sociopath or something in my mind because he has never once showed a shred of feeling for another person. He doesn't feel bad about what he did to Dome, and he doesn't feel bad about what he's planning to do in the clip. Creepy Twin Peaks style music is also playing. I wonder if he did it almost like as a test to see how far he can go. They have Title on camera strangling Dome. What if he kills him? Will his father's power be able to protect him? How long is his leash? How far can the monster roam before he does something too horrible for Daddy Dearest to protect him? I'm surprised he hasn't tried to frame Great, honestly, though in this timeline they're still friends, but I don't think for a second that he would protect Great. If push came to shove, especially with Great's family in disgrace and all their secrets out in the open, it would be the perfect time for Title to pin what happened to Dome on Great as well, since Great is also in the video. And the DNA evidence points to Title, but everybody has mentioned so far, they're like, oh, we can just doctor it, blame somebody else. Wynn gets the file and leaves. The moment he does, the university security man calls someone. Who? We don't know, but someone is officially on Wynn's trail. And I don't think it's the kind of scent hound that ever gives up. The scene changes to a young man in a white shirt chopping tomatoes to the same creepy Twin Peaks style music. It's Tongclaw in his apartment kitchen. He gets a call from Wen, and we get this very interesting shot. The cutting board, I would bet money, is shaped like a cat head, and the tomato juice looks exactly like blood. Even in a timeline where Tongclaw didn't kill Title or Great, he still killed his father. No matter how much Tongclaw might have thought he deserved it, it's still murder. Tongkla isn't a man to be trifled with, even if he's the only one that knows it. Win just straight up tells Toneclaw that Tidal killed Dome, which honestly, I don't know if Win should be a cop. Yes, he has strong morals, which is good, but if he can't quit yapping to people about confidential information for 5 seconds, maybe he should select a different profession. There's a reason police try to keep details from people until things are more official, but Win is stigmatized by sweet baby Toneclaw. I suppose he just can't resist. Toneclaw asks if they know that information, then why don't they just issue an arrest warrant? Wynn says they can't use the law, but they'll use the media and social media to put pressure on Tidal and his dad. Toneclaw's already shaking his head, not having any faith in that plan, while Wynn says he's already contacted a journalist he knows. Believe me, Toneclaw, Wynn says. Dome will get his justice. Yes, he will. Toneclaw will make sure of it. They hang up and Tongla is visibly agitated. And then we hear, meow. Tongla turns around. His black cat is there, sitting in the hall of his apartment like it never left, reminding him perhaps, I'm here. I've always been here, waiting for the moment you needed me again. What monster are we chasing? What evil is begging to be swallowed by eternal darkness brought by our hands? Notice Toneclaw backlit by the sun, casting his own face in shadow. Toneclaw is literally turning his back on the light. Light has been strongly associated with Win so far in this series, as well as traditional associations with goodness and stuff. As little as Toneclaw might believe in Win's journalism option, it is still another option. But Toneclaw has taken matters into his own hands once before, and he's willing to do it again. In the next moment, the cat's gone. Because, of course, the cat is not a cat. The cat is inside Toneclaw, always lying in wait, ready to be summoned when needed. Pour one out for my beautiful, murderous boy. We cut to Win driving a white SUV, a brave, honorable knight on his white horse. He goes into a roundabout and a motorcycle drives up with 2 riders. One of them pops off the motorcycle, points a gun at Win, and starts shooting. Win ducks and keeps driving through the roundabout to try and escape. The man still on the motorcycle drives after him and shoots his tire out. I love the care put into this scene. Win isn't just driving on a road, he's not just going anywhere, he's in a roundabout, a circle. They attack him in a circle. Like a cycle of corruption and power, Win is also trapped in the system he's chosen to put all of his faith in. Even if he's a good person, the cycle, the circle, the system is many, while he's only one man. Sometimes one person is strong enough to topple empires. Sometimes the wheel crushes the masses without thought. Which will be Win's fate? The other gunman shoots out Win's tire. He gets out of the car. They trade shots. After a series of maneuvers, the gunman manages to snatch the flash drive out of Win's car, get back on the motorcycle, and the 2 assailants drive away. In the mix, Win got shot in the arm. Call me a girl for this one, but why are we keeping such incredibly important information stored on a tiny device like a flash drive, just in the passenger seat? It's a flash drive, not a giant box of files. I'd have it in my pocket, maybe not my back pocket, but my front pants pocket, or Win wears that tactical vest all the time. I'm sure it has pockets. Put it in there. It's so tiny, I'd be scared of losing it. But Win has to lose it for the plot. So here we are. The 3rd time something has happened just for the plot. Why on earth would he keep the flash drive? Just raw dogging it in the passenger seat. The scene changes to Win getting stitched up in the ER and Toneclaw busts into the room that he's in. Toneclaw asks the nurse to leave. She does, and they talk. Toneclaw asks what happened, and Win says that he lost the evidence. Another moment for our handsome boy. I did miss him. I did miss him. I'm so happy that he's back in this episode. Then I had to laugh because Win says something that is translated as, I got shot a little. It's not like, oh, I got a little flour on me while I was baking. Being shot is kind of like an all or nothing thing, in my opinion, at least. But then again, Wynn says it was just a graze. So I guess if anything counts as being shot just a little, it would be that. Tongkla asks who shot Wynn, and Wynn says it was probably Title's dad's men. Did you back up the files? Tongkla asks, like he's asking something really obvious. Like, did you not keep the flash drive just like raw dogging it in the passenger seat? Like, did you back them up? Oh, Wynn shakes his head. No, he didn't. Toneclaw, clearly frustrated, just exasperates, shakes his head, turns around to leave. But then Wynn grabs his wrist and tells him not to give up, that he's going to find new evidence. Toneclaw's face just, it's a mix of anger and frustration and almost disgusted pity. Like he can't believe Wynn is so naive and it makes him sick. They've both seen darkness, but Wynn still thinks he can succeed by playing by the rules. Toneclaw learned a long time ago that some things you have to handle for yourself because for whatever reason, nobody else will. Toneclaw goes back to his apartment. He's smoking, staring at a photo of himself and Dome as children. He thinks, he plots, he makes a choice. He knew from the moment he saw that cat what he was going to do. The monster woke up, and it expects tribute in blood. I like the way that they filmed this scene because we first see Toneclaw reflected in something. Your eyes lie all the time. They see what your mind expects you to see and fill in the gaps that meet your mental expectations. Reflections don't do that, and neither do cameras. They show exactly what there is to see. It's telling that our first view of Toneclaw after this moment isn't him, it's a reflection. He can lie to others, he can even lie to himself, but he can't lie to the mirror. He looks at the photo, thinks of his brother. He smiles. A decision is made. The path is set. Even if it could be unmade, I don't think Toneclaw would. Such a dire crime deserves an equally dire punishment. His father beat him, then met his unfortunate end at the bottom of some stairs. For killing his little brother, Toneclaw will repay Title with interest. And then we get this stunning final shot of Toneclaw for that scene. Because of the lighting, it almost looks like his reflection is wearing black. Recall what I said before about the reflection. It's his true self, the self he can't hide, the black cat, the monster within. When Toneclaw leaves the room, he basically collides with his reflection. No longer separate, he's embracing the darkness inside him, and he's going to use it to get revenge for his little brother. The next scene, Toneclaw is in the swamp with the lighthouse, the scene of the crime, one might say. He finds the father and son duo who turned in the SIM card and starts asking them about that night. The dad says he didn't see or hear anything, but the son insists Toneclaw deserves to know. He introduced himself as the brother of the victim. Apparently, the son took a video of what was on the SIM card because he shows it to Toneclaw. As he watches, you can almost see the monster boiling under his skin, begging to be unleashed. The music even does this interesting sound effect that reminds me of a flamethrower, evoking wrathful, cleansing fire. He might not be like Fa's dad, the chairman, but Toneclaw is a dragon in his own right. And he's about to remind everyone why you should never wake a sleeping dragon. So, Toneclaw knows Title and someone else were involved in what happened to his little brother. He goes home and does some Instagram research. Through Title's Instagram, he finds Great. Through Great's Instagram, he finds Corn. He now knows that Great and Corn are related, and Great was involved with his brother's death. His face when he sees the photo of Great and Corn together, calling them brothers in the caption, is priceless. Again, Toneclaw hears a meow. The black cat. When he looks, it's walking right over a gun. Toneclaw is hazy, then comes into focus. A realization, a decision, clarity. The cat speaks to him just like it did when he killed his father. There will be no justice for Title or Great. They're too powerful and connected. Tongkla knows who Korn's family is, and he knows Title's father, so he will shoulder that burden. If the wheel of justice won't spin for Dome, Tongkla will break the wheel and punish the guilty with his own hands. It's almost like Tongkla speaks back to the cat. I see you. I hear you. I will be the hands of justice, of revenge. The scene changes to Korn, his father, and Great's mother. The parents are fleeing the country, but they can't find Great. The dad tells Korn that there's a secret hidden compartment at the investment department with a phone and cash. The phone has all of the investment department's shareholder partner contact information, and the dad wants Korn to destroy the phone, take the money, find Great, and get the two of them out of the country to go find the parents. Korn agrees, and the parents drive off. It's about to storm. The wind is whipping and thunder growls in the distance. Rather than the warm summer storm before Great and Time were intimate for the first time, this storm is all violence and destruction. It's coming. We can only hope it doesn't destroy everything and everyone in its path. Korn goes to Great's condo. It's surrounded by cops and bystanders. What's going on? Korn asks a random woman. Someone's been shot, she says. The young man who owns the building. Okay, one, go real estate mogul, Great. And two, oh no. Korn drops his umbrella. It started raining and runs past the caution tape. This moment, the black umbrella on the ground, reminded me of the man with the red umbrella that Faw's dad took care of for Korn. We're left to wonder, is this the fate that awaits Korn now that he and Great can't flee the country? At least, not yet. And if they linger, will it be too late? The scene changes to Dr. Den interviewing patients. At this point, I assume this is just a continuation of episode 6. That's where I kind of accepted that, but I already covered that at the beginning of my chit chat. I really hope we get an extra long finale to satisfy us, considering we have had 2 flashback episodes in a row for only an 8-episode show. Lukwah comes into Den's office. They chat a little and are 100% flirting. You can't convince me otherwise. Since episode 1, I've always thought that Lukwah looked at Den like she knew him and had a crush. If this is the other timeline, or there's a version of Lukwah's story like Great's, I think she knows Den from that. She's familiar with him in a way that a patient wouldn't be with their doctor. That's just my theory. Lukwah says she remembers something else. She mentions how if she hadn't been able to get out of the loop of seeing 4 minutes into the future, she probably would have been in that mind state forever and her body in the real world would have died. Calling us back to Great, who I guess has been in a weird coma/state of dying this entire time while he lives a fake version of events. I swear, if he comes out of this coma in love with Time and Time hates him because of all of the stuff that happened with Nan, I'm going to go fight somebody. I'm going to fly to Thailand. This is not a threat, by the way. This is hyperbolic, but I'm going to fight someone. Anyway, Din asks what got Lukwah out of her dream state. My boyfriend's voice, she says, which, like, news to me. I thought she was in love with Den. They are so flirty. And apparently, I wasn't the only one who thought that because Din just, like, gapes like he's frozen. He's eating a cookie. She brought him heart-shaped cookies, by the way. It's not crazy for me to think that that she has a crush on him. She brought him heart-shaped cookies, okay? Anyway, he's got a cookie and he freezes. And we got that weird high-pitched ringing, like he's, like, going through it. He even drops his cookie and it breaks in half, like broken heart vibes. And that's when I realized Den must have also had a crush on Lukwah because it seems like he was as flabbergasted about the fact that she had a boyfriend as I was. Den recovers quickly and says that makes sense that hearing the voice brought her out of her dream state because hearing is the last sense that a person loses when their brain is deprived of oxygen. Lukwah leans forward and grins. Is that so? She asks. Good thing my boyfriend and I weren't broken up then. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. They both smile. So, they're both single. I clocked it since episode 1. These two need to date ASAP. Den needs to take a night off and take Lukwah out to dinner because this girl, she deserves it. She's been through it. Then the timelines sort of start to overlap again. Den walks out of work with the Nurse B, and they're fighting about the fruit cup or cantaloupe or whatever again. And the nurse is like, I'll buy all the cantaloupe. And Dr. Den's like, oh, you ate my cantaloupe. You should go get me more. I don't know. They're fighting about cantaloupe, but like good naturedly. When Great is rolled by on like a trauma gurney into the hospital, Den recognizes him from when Great came running in, almost busted up into Time's OR, because that still happens in this timeline as well. So Den recognizes him either way. Clearly, in both timelines, there are like cornerstone events that will happen every time, regardless. So Den calls Time. The scene flashes back to our time in our timeline, standing on the pedestrian bridge. One of the comments on my video about episode 5 mentions that when he's running across the bridge at the end of episode 5, there's those lights that are flashing. And as it flashes, it goes between him being like uninjured and injured. So I guess this is another like crossover place in the timelines where it's like these things are going to happen and it's just like unavoidable. And I didn't notice that at the time, but it's very interesting to go back and see it now because he is injured. He's like gotten beaten up because he got beat up by the guys before Great saved him. But the OG timeline Time is supposed to get shot right as Great is dying. So is this back in the timeline from the first 5 episodes? Because our Time is here to save Great. He's not like off being angry about Non. So I'm like, literally, what is happening? Time scrubs in and watches Great's surgery through the OR door, but he doesn't go in because that's like a massive conflict of interest to operate on a loved one. Even though the hospital wouldn't know that they were loved ones, they're not like next of kin or related or anything. But still, good call not to go in there, probably. He looks so torn up. Tell me why this man is so incredibly awkward around Great, but then he pulls out emotional performances like this. Does Great make you flustered, Time? Is he just that handsome? Are you just a blushing young maiden whenever he's around? But then I guess it is OG time because it flashes back to him yelling after they didn't rescue Non that Great deserves to rot in hell. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is the OG timeline. But that just proves that even OG timeline Time still has extremely strong feelings for OG timeline Great. So they got something going on. Then it flashes to Time and Den in Den's office. Time is blaming himself for Great getting shot and says he feels awful about what he said to him before about Non. Time's eyes are literally glistening with tears. His big, beautiful cow eyes just pierce straight through my heart. Shot to the heart, and you're to blame. Den, also looking incredibly handsome, says, I want to say, don't blame yourself, man. Some things are beyond our control. It's not that, Time interrupts. Every decision was under my control. And after I've made a decision, I can't go back and fix it. And it'll haunt me until the day I die. Is this our lesson? I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. And to an extent, yes, Time made all his decisions up until this point, but so did Great. Without the benefit of his 4 minutes power, he can't know all of his choices would have led where they did. Yes, leaving Mani behind was purely just a bad thing to do, but everything else, he couldn't know that Tidal would kill Dome or that Samarn would actually shoot Non. He didn't know saying no to Time asking him to dinner would be so disagreeable to fate that he'd have to go and do it again. We all only have one life. We can only make the choices that we make in the moment. We can only do the best we can. Sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes people get hurt. But you only get one chance to make a choice. But sometimes we might have a chance to resolve any lingering feelings, Den says. Lukwa's story still clearly on his mind. Time is confused. Den says he's going to get something, and while he's gone, Time should read through his research. He puts a big file in front of Time and then leaves his office. The shot starts upside down and off center, inverted and distorted, like the way that Great's 4 minutes power distorts the camera frame. But slowly, the camera spins like a clock, righting itself. Is everything coming together? Is this when the connections will be made? When the final pieces will slide into place? At first, Time isn't too sure about reading all this research, but he sits back, he starts reading it. In the next scene, Time's all scrubbed in, minus the scrub cap, and walks into Great's hospital room. Also, listen, even though I had a feeling Great was in a coma this entire time, like that was a theory that I had back in episode 1 or 2, I'm still a little disappointed to know that he went through all the things that he went through, got to make all the choices again and do the right thing, and like in the end didn't really change anything. They're still like back where they started. Though I hope when he wakes up, he's like learned a life lesson from this. If he wakes up, I guess. But it's almost like, I don't know. I don't wanna say they went through all of it for nothing, but that's kind of what it feels like. Then again, did it change nothing? Time is in his hospital room. He's not off somewhere getting shot. Did all this somehow bleed through sheer force of will into reality? Time takes Great's hand and asks, "Can you forgive me, Great?" Silence, save for the steadily beeping heart monitor and the somber piano music playing, one melody picked out by one player, hoping for another melody to twine around it. When you're all better, let's go out for a meal together. Silence. But if you look closely, you do see Great's eyes moving towards Time underneath his closed eyelids. He didn't wake up, but Great heard Time. Time goes home, turns on the lights, and sees his house ransacked. Immediately, he runs outside and FaceTimes his grandma. She's still at the aunt's house, and she's totally fine. Time says that he's going to come over. And she says, "Oh, well, we'll wait for you to eat then. We've made all this food." He's struggling to unlock the gate, which is hitched together with a bike lock for some reason. Time asks the granny if she remembered to lock the doors. The way the camera kept showing us a wide angle behind Time, like the wide shot behind him, I was sure someone was going to come up behind him and do something. I was braced. I was ready, which is why I was totally unprepared when gunfire sounded over the phone. I literally like jerked and jumped in my seat. I was not expecting it. I was totally shocked. Granny falls with a cry and more shots follow until there's nothing but silence. Time stares at his phone, dumbfounded. Granny is dead. Feet come into view on the camera in sleek, shiny black shoes. The figure picks up the phone. It's the chairman, Fa's dad. "Hello, Dr. Time," the chairman says. "We've never met before, have we? Although I don't think there's any need to, because I'm going to kill you, just like I did your grandma and your mom and dad. I'll tell you for some good karma, so you don't come back as a ghost and haunt me. I was the one who ordered to kill your parents. Should have had you killed as well. Shouldn't have let you grow up and damage my business this much. If there's nothing else, that's it for now, Dr. Time. Oh, looks like you have a visitor." Dang, this show is too good at throwing me off my game because what I was worried about did happen, but not when I expected it to. A man walks up behind Time, Time spins around, and the man shoots. Then we get a flashback to Baby Great. I mean, he's like 9, he's not a baby, but he's young. He's baby compared to the Great we know. He's playing with his mom, and then his dad comes to the house. They're cute and sweet, and then the dad asks to talk to the mom alone, and Great scampers off. The dad tells the mom that he's having issues with the business. He needs more money, and Corn's mom couldn't help at all. "I really want to sign the divorce papers," he says. And let's dive into that together. He wants to sign the papers, aka he already has them drawn up, and all he has to do is sign them. Why hasn't he yet, if he's so in love with the mistress and doesn't love Corn's mom anymore? And why does he say it like, "Oh, since Corn's mom can't help me, if you can help me, I'll sign the divorce papers"? Manipulation. He's using the idea of divorcing Corn's mom to manipulate Great's mom into helping him with the situation. Now, she's no angel either, sleeping with a married man, but by the way the dad is emotionally manipulating her, it just makes my skin crawl. "I think I can help you," Great's mom says. She knows a few investors and she can get them to meet with him. The mom sets up a meeting with a couple who own several casinos on the border. Oh, and they have a son. His name is Time. And the thing is, they're not like subtle. The mom was like outright talking about owning casinos. How unaware must little Time have been to have had no idea that his parents were involved in this stuff? Even as a kid, I knew what my parents did for a living. But then again, I've heard it's not uncommon for the kids of hyper wealthy people not to know their parents even have jobs, let alone what the job is. And so, normally I hate the they met as children trope. But I've always said it can be done well. What's Wrong with Secretary Kim is a great example of they knew each other as children done well. I think it's done well when it's like relevant to the plot and also like theoretically possible. Not to say what happened in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim to them as children is like hyper likely, but it is theoretically possible. And this is another great example. I honestly really liked that they did this, which is surprising to everyone who knows me, I'm sure. So the kids meet up in like the lobby of the building or whatever. Little Great is eating candy, Little Time is playing games. They decide to sit together, eat candy together, and Great watches Time play his Game Boy. Little Time is clearly older than Little Great, not by like a ton, but at least by a few years, but he's still very sweet to Little Great. They go get ice cream, and Little Great freaks out when he sees a dog, like when they ate together on the pier. But Time said he did his research. Does that mean he remembered they knew each other or not? I honestly don't think either of them remember meeting personally, but I'm sure we'll find out. Honestly, I kind of hope they don't remember meeting because I kind of like that better. Little Time is so sweet. He doesn't make fun of Great. He just says that they should go back and wait on their parents and gently leads Little Great away. It is mildly funny though because he is scared of like the fattest chihuahua I have ever seen. Little Great is sad about his ice cream, so Little Time gives him his Game Boy. You know why I like this, even though I usually hate it? Because it makes sense. Their families ran in the same circles, Time's parents invested in Great's family's business. It makes sense they would have met at some point, even if only briefly. And as far as I know, neither of them remember, which honestly, like I said, I prefer that. I think it honestly makes it better. They weren't just randomly neighbors and pen pals once, but they never actually met each other in person, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the plot whatsoever. LePluie. The scene changes to Great's dad meeting with the chairman, Foz's dad. Foz's dad says Time's family's casinos are being investigated by the authorities and it could lead back to them. What are you going to do? Great's dad asks. Leave it up to me, the chairman says. You're not going to kill them, are you? Great's dad asks. The chairman just raises his wine glass. Worry, don't do it, Great's dad says. Worry just takes a sip of his wine. Notice their reflections on the black table. This is the meeting of their inner monsters, their dark underbellies. Try as he might to maintain a clean, friendly facade, Great's dad knows what he's doing, what the chairman does. He's just as guilty, just as coated in blood. The scene changes to Time's parents leaving him with his grandma. Clearly, they knew danger was coming and they wanted their son out of the crosshairs. The mom pointedly leaves her diary with the grandma. Little Time calls for his mother, and the scene changes back to Big Boy Time, standing in his yard with a gun pointed at him. It fires, he falls. The gunman stalks closer, going for the kill shot to the head, but just then, a delivery boy on a moped goes by and the gunman runs off, scared of getting caught. Time manages to get up and scramble away to a familiar place we all remember from the beginning of episode 1, where the ground is covered in straw. He stumbles, leaving a bloody handprint on the concrete wall. He falls to the ground, crying. He doesn't want to die, but he's bleeding out, and surely the gunman is still around, lurking like a vulture, waiting to finish off his wounded prey. The scene cuts to Great in the hospital bed, coding, just like the beginning of episode 1. Time stumbles down a familiar corridor, a familiar red light in the background. He falls just as Great's heart goes flat, their hearts failing at the same time. The gunman emerges from the dark, walking slow now that he knows Time can't run. Great's doctor calls for the defibrillator, and then we get a shock bang. 1,000 volts through Great's heart and a bullet through Time's. Their hearts pound in their ears, blood wells between Time's fingers. Their hearts race faster, a desperate attempt to send healing blood, unaware it's just leaking out faster. The defibrillator doesn't work. Great flatlines. Time's heart stops. The clock almost strikes 11 p.m. Blunt cutscene to Time, staring at a clock in his grandmother's house. The light outside so bright it's almost blindingly white. Clouds float by. Is this heaven? Hell? Purgatory? It's almost 11 o'clock, the same time it was when he and Great died. The minute hand strikes 11, the clock gongs. Time, are you back? Granny calls from somewhere in the house. Are you back with me? Back in the land of the dead, where you should have been with your parents. Back where you barely escaped from the first time. Yes, I'm back, he calls, not thinking anything of it, and goes to his granny in the kitchen. Clearly not realizing anything is out of the ordinary, they banter back and forth, teasing. She asks him to get a measuring cup from the shelf, kind of pointing. He says, "Oh, what shelf? What shelf? Here in the kitchen? No, no, that shelf out there in the dining room." So, okay, okay. He goes to the shelf to get what she's asking for. On the shelf, Time finds a suspicious box. In it, his mother's diary. Inside is a photo of him and his mom. On the back of the first page, it says, "If anything happens to me, it'll be because of Chanin Sriwatsambat, Great's father." Granny appears in the kitchen door. Time asks why she hasn't shown this to him before. Granny says, "Because I know it won't change anything." Time gets angry. Granny says, "I'll give you a choice. Put the diary back where you found it, or keep it." The choice that he was telling Den, I made all of these choices and I can't go back and change them. This was his choice catalyst. This was his moment that set him on the course that changes everything. Greats, in my opinion, was Mani, and this was Times, choosing to keep his mother's diary, choosing to investigate what really happened and get to the bottom of it, come hell or high water. Time debates the choice, staring at the diary in his hands for long moments. Then he comes to a decision. The screen goes dark, like the once sunshiny day outside was shrouded in preternatural darkness, the darkness of revenge, the darkness of death. The episode ends. This isn't what I expected, considering the finale is next week. I didn't think we'd get yet another basically entire like flashback adjacent episode. Like it was cool and there were parts I liked, but overall, I really wanted the story to progress this week. And again, it sort of did, but like also not. The finale has a lot of work to do to wrap up this story, in my opinion. So, which timeline are we in? The OG, some confluence of the two? Is Dome actually dead? Is Tidal? Did Toneclaw get revenge on Tidal first, bashing his head in with a rock before he went after Great? Or does he just go straight for Great because he's also connected with Corn and Toneclaw is pissed at Corn? Does Toneclaw know about Fa? I feel like that's something they would have shown us in this episode. Where is Fa in all of this? Is Tidal still alive? And if so, where is he? Again, I mentioned in my video for the last episode, I feel like they're going to red herring Toneclaw in as like a dark horse villain for the finale. Not that we don't know he's a villain, but that like I think he's going to come in when like we think, oh, we've beaten the villain. Like, no, you haven't. Boom, here's Tidal, the surprise final boss. The finale is going to have to wrap up literally everything. The whole Corn Toneclaw Fa thing, Great in Time, 4 minutes, is Dome actually dead? What timeline are we in? I guess Toneclaw has always been in the OG timeline because Great didn't know him until like he shot him. So he wouldn't have factored Toneclaw into the revisited 4 minutes timeline. And maybe that's why he was always so removed and out of place from everything else that was going on. Enough happens the same way that Corn would have still fit with what we expected to see in the scenes that he had with Toneclaw. And overall, I'm still confused. I'm holding out hope that the finale is going to be good and it's going to wrap everything up. If we don't get a happy ending, I'm going to be extremely upset. I have never seen this screenwriter's work before. I don't know if she does happy endings. And that's on me maybe for not researching it first, but I'm a happy ending girl. If I don't get at least a semi-happy ending, I'm going to be extremely upset and I'm going to go fight somebody. I already said it. It's hyperbolic. I'm not actually going to fight somebody, but I'll feel like I want to, you know? That is all for this video. Please leave me a comment if you got this far. You know, I love hearing from all of you in the comments, all of your theories, all of your comments on my theories. I love when we get a conversation going back and forth. And please follow me on my other social medias. I would love to hear from you there. That is all for this video. I will see you guys next time. Bye.